For a closer look at what all this means for China-U.S. relations, Xunchao Zhang joins me. He is a researcher of international relations and political violence at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Thanks very much for appearing on our program. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I want to begin by talking about Henry Kissinger's visit. Kissinger is so widely respected in China, of course, and progress in military matters between the two nations has been very slow, especially recently. However, a readout that came after the meeting with Kissinger, Kissinger is quoted as saying neither country, the U.S. or China, can treat the other as an adversary. You know, it's been said before, but with Kissinger's clout, how significant is this in both China and the United States?
I think Kissinger's visit, along with a flurry of diplomatic exchange between China and the United States at a pretty high level, has generated some positive diplomatic development. Right? So the key development, positive development we can see right now is that both sides have been able to dial down the potentially confrontational rhetoric. However, to truly reduce the difference, it requires substantive policy change without effort to address underlying issues, such as the Taiwan issue. The diplomatic improvement is likely to be short-lived.
You know, jumping back across the Pacific from China to the United States, a Chinese ambassador will be speaking at the Aspen Security Forum, and we're going to have a story on that a little bit later in our program. Look, the same thing happened last year, speaking in Aspen, and at the time, China urged the United States to avoid a Cold War mentality. With your work going on at Maddison, which, by the way, is an amazing city, what has changed in the last year, and how important is it for China to speak to a gathering of high-level military and security leaders and many others in the U.S.?
I think it's really important for Chinese diplomats, scholars at all different levels to make clear what's the issue of concern and what's the core security interest for China. I think one of the key issues is must be clearly communicated is the issue of Taiwan. So on this issue, we see that the Biden administration is clearly willing to say the right thing. They say they respect One China policy. They want to avoid a new Cold War between U.S. and China. But at times, we find the substantive U.S. policy are sometimes inconsistent with the diplomatic rhetoric. Right? So if we look at the issue of Taiwan, we see that since 2020, the frequency and scale of U.S. arms supply to Taiwan has escalated quite dramatically. So qualitatively, the arms sales to Taiwan has also shifted from traditionally, it's more about the maintaining of existing systems. Now it's more becoming supplying new offensive weaponry to Taiwan, such as the high-speed anti-radiation missile that are designed to actually attack targets on mainland China. And notably, the U.S. recently provided weapons to Taiwan using the presidential drawdown authority. So this is the same expedited procedure used for U.S. arms transfer to Ukraine, which is certainly an ominous development for the security across the Taiwan Strait.
You know, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said there have been inconsistent measures coming out of the United States. But there have been, as you talked about earlier, a lot of high-level negotiations going on recently. And one can make the argument that this is a very good sign.
Indeed. I think a lot of these long-term security issues cannot be solved overnight, and we should have a realistic expectation about this. So the question becomes, in the meantime, what can we do to actually expand cooperation and build trust between the two nations? As shown by John Kerry's visit this week, the two countries make real effort to prevent the security tension from spilling over into previously less contentious issues like climate cooperation. I think while cooperation on large-scale global challenge like climate is certainly very important, it may be also better to first start with cooperation on very small concrete areas, because the two sides really need some early success to build momentum of cooperation and put bilateral relations on better footing. So something I think being addressed and discussed during whether it's Blinken's visit to China recently or even Ambassador Xie Feng's recent remarks in the United States is we should focus on specific areas such as improving tourist exchange between the two countries, easing visa restriction, improving academic and student exchange between the two countries, so we can actually put a relation on a better footing.
You know, both countries say it's important to work together, and you talked about making those little steps in progress. What are you looking for next? We've talked about climate for a couple of years now, but there has to be something else on the horizon.
Other than climate, I think still there are a number of policy area on transnational challenge that China and the U.S. could work together potentially. One is the issue of preventing international pandemic, right? So the last few years' experience certainly taught us a lesson how serious a threat that is. In addition to that, I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the global economy right now. So it's important for the two countries to work together on microeconomic issue as well.
Xunchao Zhang, thank you so much. We certainly appreciate your time, and we hope to chat with you again down the line. Thanks again.
Thanks.